Yeah, look, it's a great question. I get asked this a lot, and I recently talked about this at a EIC, and next week I'll be doing a similar talk at Identiverse, a practitioner's guide to NHIs. So look, when I ran my last NHI program at a large investment bank, we took step back first and took a holistic approach. And clearly, our mantra was you've got to take a risk-based approach. You can't tackle the elephant in the room. So some of the things, Jim, you've talked about, you have to look at where are clearly your highest risks. So you have to go after your most privileged, accounts like your admin accounts, your domain controllers, etc., your root accounts on servers, databases. And the other thing you need to do is look at what controls you have around those accounts per platform. Now, you may have interactive logins enabled on your Windows service accounts, which we all know is really, really bad, right? So you can then interactively get in and start to become that account. So look, there's lots. You first need to understand what your control maturity looks like. Where do you have strong controls or processes, and maybe your Linux estate might be very well secure, but you don't have interactive logins. No one knows the password for any of the accounts, but your Windows AD is where everybody knows the passwords and they're never cycled and they're interactive, right? So, you need to understand kind of your control levels across your tech stack. You clearly need to go for your highest risk accounts, right? You need to look at things like lateral movement, right? Because typically folks will first find some non-prod environment and then laterally move. We see a lot of service accounts that don't have environment segregation, and that applies to any NHIs where the same account has access to prod and non-prod. So once you're in, you can laterally move. So you really need to understand all your controls and then come up with more of a holistic approach of how you're going to go for the areas that have got the biggest risk exposures. Like at a previous org, we felt the database estate was our biggest risk, right? Because you can't turn off interactive logins there. As long as you know the credential, the password, you can log in, and you can do anything once you're in. And then there's a lack of monitoring of what you're doing. The other thing I think is really important that people forget is you've got to really look at this top down from a management standpoint. Look at kind of your policies, your standards, your controls, and make sure you educate folks that, look, you may not have all the best tech stack out there. You may not even have a vault. You may not have scanning in place.